Richard Feynman won the Nobel Prize in Physics, but his biggest battle wasn't with quantum mechanics, it was with his own procrastination. The same brilliant mind that could solve impossible equations would put off writing papers for months. But he discovered something fascinating. The laws of physics that govern motion also govern human behavior, and he used them to defeat procrastination forever. Every day you procrastinate is a day your future self pays for. That project you're avoiding? It's not going away. It's growing in your mind, getting bigger and scarier, taking up mental space, even when you're not working on it. This psychological burden is called the Zeigarnik effect. Unfinished tasks create cognitive load that drains your energy and focus. You're carrying the weight of undone work everywhere you go. It's affecting your sleep, your relationships, your confidence. And the longer you wait, the heavier it gets. If you don't break this pattern, you'll spend your entire life exhausted by tasks you haven't even started. Feynman realized something counterintuitive. Procrastination isn't a time management problem, it's a physics problem. Specifically, it's Newton's first law. Objects at rest stay at rest. When you're procrastinating, you're at rest, and every minute you stay at rest makes it harder to start moving. But here's the good news. Objects in motion stay in motion. Once you start, continuing is easy. The problem isn't doing the work, it's initiating movement. Feynman developed a system based on this principle, and it's so simple it almost seems too easy to work. Let me show you Feynman's physics-based approach to destroying procrastination. The law of inertia. Applied to work, Newton's first law states, an object at rest stays at rest unless acted upon by an external force. In physics, that force might be a push. In productivity, that force is what Feynman called the smallest possible start. When you're avoiding a task, your brain sees it as this massive, overwhelming thing. Write a research paper feels impossible when you're sitting on the couch. Your brain calculates the energy required and says, no way, Feynman's solution, don't try to write the paper, that's too much force required. Instead, open a blank document. That's it. Just open it. This sounds absurdly simple, but it's based on solid physics. The force required to move from rest to motion is enormous, but the force required to maintain motion is tiny. Opening a document is minimal force, but once it's open, you're already in motion. And motion tends to continue. Feynman would use this technique constantly. Avoiding a calculation, he'd write just the first equation. Avoiding a lecture preparation, he'd write just the title slide. That smallest possible start created motion, and motion carried him forward. Reducing activation energy in chemistry, there's a concept called activation energy, the minimum energy required to start a reaction. Feynman applied this to procrastination. Every task has an activation energy. Go to the gym has high activation energy. You have to change clothes, pack a bag, drive there, etc. Do 10 push-ups right now has low activation energy. Just get on the floor. Feynman would redesign tasks to lower their activation energy. Instead of work on my physics problem, he'd say, stare at the problem for 2 minutes. Instead of write the introduction, he'd say, write one bad sentence. Here's a real example. Feynman was avoiding writing up some research that would eventually become his Nobel Prize-winning work. The task felt huge. Organize years of notes, write mathematical proofs, make it coherent. High activation energy. So he changed the task. Explain my research to the wall like I'm talking to a student. He literally talked to his office wall for 20 minutes, just verbalizing his ideas. Low activation energy. But once he started talking, he got excited, grabbed a notebook, started writing. 3 hours later, he had a rough draft. The activation. Energy wasn't write a Nobel Prize paper, it was talk to a wall. The 2-minute force. Feynman had a rule. Any task that takes less than 2 minutes, do it immediately. This isn't about those tasks themselves. It's about maintaining momentum. Think of yourself as an object in motion. Every time you say, "I'll do it later." To a small task, you're applying a brake. You're slowing your momentum. Do that enough times, and you come to a complete stop. But when you do 2-minute tasks immediately, you're maintaining motion. That motion carries over to bigger tasks. Feynman would respond to a quick email, file a paper, make a phone call, all immediately, all tiny forces that kept him in motion. By 10 a.m., he'd completed 20 small tasks and built so much momentum that tackling big tasks felt natural. Try this. For one day, do every task under 2 minutes immediately. Don't think about it. Don't schedule it. Just do it. Watch how this creates unstoppable momentum. Force vectors. Direction matters in physics. Force has magnitude and direction. Pushing hard in the wrong direction gets you nowhere. Feynman applied this to procrastination by asking, am I avoiding this task because it's hard or because it's the wrong task? Sometimes procrastination is your brain's way of saying, this isn't important. Feynman would procrastinate on administrative work because it genuinely didn't matter. He'd focus his force on physics problems instead, but he never procrastinated on physics itself. If he did, he knew something was wrong. Either he was approaching the problem incorrectly, or he needed more information first. Here's how to use this. When you're procrastinating, ask, is this task actually important, or am I doing it because I think I should? If it's genuinely important and you're still avoiding it, ask, what about my approach is making this feel wrong? Feynman once spent 3 weeks avoiding a particular calculation. Finally, he realized he was using the wrong mathematical framework. He switched approaches and the calculation took him 20 minutes. Creating systems, not relying on willpower. Feynman understood that willpower is a finite resource. It's a force that depletes. You can't rely on it. Instead, create systems that work regardless of motivation. His system. Every morning before checking any messages or emails, he would work on his hardest problem for exactly 90 minutes. No negotiation, no decision-making. The system decided for him. By removing the decision, he removed the opportunity to procrastinate. He didn't wake up and think, should I work on this today? The answer was always yes because the system said so. This is Newton's second law. Force equals mass times acceleration. Willpower is force. It fluctuates. But systems are mass. They're constant. Build enough mass into your routine, and you'll accelerate even when force is low. Create your own system. Pick your most important task. Pick a non-negotiable time. Do it every single day for 30 days. After 30 days, it becomes a system, not a decision. Environmental Forces Feynman's office was designed for work. No TV, no distractions, just physics problems and a chalkboard. He understood that environment applies constant force. If your environment constantly pushes you toward distraction, you have to use enormous willpower to resist. But if your environment pushes you toward work, staying focused is effortless. Redesign one space in your home specifically for the task you're avoiding. Make it so easy to work there and so hard to be distracted that starting becomes natural. Feynman's Caltech office had everything he needed for physics within arm's reach. He removed friction from working and added friction to procrastinating. The momentum principle. Here's the final insight. Once you build momentum, protect it fiercely. Feynman would have periods where he was on a roll, days or weeks where he was producing incredible work. During these times, he'd cancel social obligations, ignore non-urgent requests, and guard his momentum like treasure, because he understood, building momentum is hard, maintaining it is easy, but losing it means starting from rest again. When you find yourself in motion on an important task, don't stop for anything non-essential. Ride that momentum as far as it'll take you. Feynman's greatest insight wasn't about physics, it was about himself. He realized that procrastination wasn't a moral failing or a lack of discipline. It was simply inertia, the natural state of objects at rest. Once he stopped judging himself and started applying physics principles, procrastination lost its power. The same laws that govern planets and particles govern your productivity. You're not lazy, you're not broken, you're just at rest. And the solution isn't more willpower, it's the smallest possible force applied in the right direction. It sounds logical, but it's incomplete. When you stumble, you realize you don't fully understand independent events. The mistake exposed the gap. Now, when you go back and review, you come back stronger. A coin has no memory. Each flip is independent, which is why the chance is always 50-50 no matter what happened before. Another example, you try to explain photosynthesis and forget to mention sunlight. The discomfort of that mistake forces you to review. The next time, you never forget again because the failure carved a permanent mark in your memory. Here's the key insight. Every mistake is a rehearsal. The more you stumble while explaining, the more raw material you have to refine into clarity. It's like a sculptor who, with each wrong strike of the chisel, discovers the true outline of the figure hidden in the stone. But to harness the power of mistakes, you need a scientific attitude, curiosity instead of judgment. When you get something wrong, ask yourself, what exactly caused this error? By answering that question, you strengthen the very connection that was weak. This is step 5. Don't fear mistakes. Embrace them. They don't prove your inability. They prove you're pushing the boundaries of your understanding. And it's at those boundaries that genuine learning happens. 1330, 1445. The final ingredient, intelligent hard work. You now know the complete formula. Simplify, teach, review, and refine play with creative repetition. Embrace mistakes. But there's one final ingredient that cannot be ignored. Hard work. Yes, there is a method. Yes, there is technique. But without real, sustained effort, nothing grows. The brain is like a muscle. It needs resistance to develop. There is no genius without discipline. What changes when you apply this formula is that your effort stops being wasted. You're no longer spending hours on meaningless highlighting or passive rereading. Every attempt to explain, every corrected mistake, every creative review builds a solid, measurable step forward. The truth is, every great mind worked harder than most people thought possible, but they worked intelligently. And that combination, method plus effort, is what transforms the impossible into the inevitable. Here's your challenge. Today, right now, choose one topic, any topic. Take a sheet of paper, simplify it, explain it out loud, review it, play with it. Embrace your mistakes, and do it with discipline every single day. You'll discover in practice that there are no limits for someone who works hard with intelligence. Now, make a commitment. Go to the comments and type, "I choose to learn without limits." This isn't just a comment, it's a declaration to your own brain that you are ready to expand. If this video opened your mind, leave a like and subscribe for more lessons like this. And tell me, what's the first thing you're going to learn using this technique? I read every comment. Thank you for watching until the end. Stay well, and I'll see you in the next one.